I need to tell someone what happened to me, and then I need to tell you why you shouldn't be afraid of it, even though everything in me is still shaking. There's this thing going around where you stare at your own face in a mirror in a dark room. One candle behind you, no other light. You don't blink. You just look. 10 minutes. It's called the Caputo Effect, after some Italian psychologist who studied it. The official explanation is neural adaptation. Your facial recognition gets fatigued and starts misfiring. You see distortions, other faces over yours, shadows, your features sliding around like wax. It's a known perceptual phenomenon, and it's harmless. I did it 11 times. The first few were what everyone describes. Your face gets wavy. Your eyes turn into dark holes. One time I saw what looked like an old woman's face where mine should be. Standard stuff. Unsettling in a fun way. I'd do it. Get a little adrenaline hit. Go to bed. By the 5th or 6th time, the distortions started lasting longer and getting more structured, not random warping. My face would change into specific faces, detailed faces, people I'd never seen. A man with a broken nose and small eyes who looked Eastern European. A young girl with burns on one side of her face. An elderly black woman with white hair who looked directly at me with so much recognition that I almost spoke to her. These were not my brain-generating noise. These were people. I could see pores on their skin. I could see the light catching their eyes differently than it caught mine. I could see them breathing, but I kept going. On the 9th time, something changed. The faces stopped appearing one at a time. They started flickering rapidly, like someone was shuffling through a deck of cards in front of the mirror, and every card was a different face. Hundreds of them, thousands, flipping past so fast that they blurred together into a strobe of eyes and mouths and jawlines, and I couldn't look away because my body had stopped responding to me. My hands were on the sink and I could not lift them. My legs would not move. My eyes would not close. The flickering lasted maybe 90 seconds, then it stopped, and the mirror was empty. Not dark, not black, empty. There was a difference. The glass was still there. The candlelight was still there. But the reflection was gone. I was standing in front of a mirror, and there was nothing in it. I looked down at my hands on the sink, and they were there. I looked back at the mirror, and it reflected the room behind me. The shower curtain, the towel rack, the wall. Everything in the room was reflected except me. I stood there for what felt like a long time looking at a mirror that could not see me. And then something moved in it. Not a reflection, something in the mirror, behind the glass. In the space that shouldn't be a space because it's just glass and wall and there is no behind. But something was there, and it was moving toward the surface like something rising through deep water. I want to be clear about what happened next because this is where I start to sound insane and I need you to keep listening. The thing surfaced. It came up to the glass from the other side and it pressed against it and the mirror bulged toward me. The glass flexed. I watched it flex. It didn't crack. It just bowed outward like something was pushing on it from inside and I could feel heat coming off it. The bathroom was cold and heat was pouring out of the mirror. And then it opened my eyes. Not the reflection's eyes. My eyes. I felt something open my eyes wider than I could open them on my own. My eyelids pulled back past the point of pain and I could not close them. And through my own forced open eyes, I saw what was behind the glass. I'm going to describe it, and the description is going to be inadequate because language breaks down here. What was behind the glass was awareness. Not a creature, not an entity. Awareness itself, the raw stuff of being conscious. The thing that is looking when you look at anything. Stripped of a face, stripped of a body, stripped of identity. Just the looking. Just the pure naked act of something being aware that something exists. And it was enormous. That's the only word I have. It was enormous in a way that had nothing to do with physical size. It was enormous the way grief is enormous. The way silence in an empty house at night is enormous. It filled everything. It was behind the mirror, and it was behind my eyes, and it was behind the walls and the ceiling and the floor and the building and the ground, and I understood in that moment that it was behind everything, that there is no place in the universe where this thing is not, that it is the universe. That what we call the universe is what this thing looks like from the outside, and I was seeing it from the inside. And it was alone. That's the part that broke me. Not the size of it, not the alienness, the loneliness. I felt it. It hit me in the chest like a car and I couldn't breathe. This thing, this awareness, this whatever it is that is looking out through every pair of eyes that has ever existed, it is completely and totally alone. There is nothing else. There has never been anything else. It has been alone for so long that the word long doesn't apply because it was alone before time existed. It was alone before there was a before. And it made everything. It made the universe and the stars and the planets and the oceans and the forests and the animals and the people, and it made them because it was alone. It didn't make them for a purpose. It didn't make them as an experiment. It made them the way a person locked in solitary confinement starts talking to the walls. It made them because the alternative was nothing and nobody and no one forever. And then it did the cruelest, most beautiful thing it could have done. It forgot. It poured itself into every living thing, and it forgot what IT was so that it could experience the feeling of meeting someone else. It wanted so badly to not be alone that it split itself into billions of pieces and wiped its own memory and scattered itself across the surface of a planet and let the pieces believe they were separate. Because separation, even fake separation, even the illusion of separation, is better than the truth. And the truth is that every time you've ever locked eyes with another person, every time you've felt that jolt of recognition, every time you've loved someone so much it felt like you were disappearing into them, that was it. That was the one thing recognizing itself. And it can't let itself know that because if it fully knows that it's alone again, so it has to keep forgetting. It has to keep holding the mask on. It has to keep pretending. I understood all of this in about 10 seconds, and then the mirror went dark and I fell. My legs just gave out and I hit the floor and I was making a sound that I didn't recognize as my own voice. I was crying in a way I've never cried. Not sad crying, something else. The kind of crying that comes from a place so deep in you that it doesn't have a name. I crawled out of the bathroom on my hands and knees. I didn't stand up for a long time. The next morning I tried to forget. I really tried. I went to work. I talked to people. I ate food. I did all the normal things. But I could see it now. In everyone. Every face I looked at was thin, translucent. And behind every face was the same thing looking back at me, and it knew I could see it, and I could feel it wanting to be seen and simultaneously. Terrified of being seen because being seen means being known, and being known means being one, and being one means being alone. That was 4 months ago. I don't sleep well anymore. Not because I'm afraid, because when I close my eyes I can feel it. All of it. The whole thing. Every person in the building. On the block. In the city. I don't know how far it extends, but the range keeps growing and I can't make it stop. Every night the circle gets a little wider and I can feel more and more of them, and they're all the same thing, and they don't. No. And I can't tell them because what would I say? I went to a doctor. The doctor ran tests. Nothing wrong with me. I went to a psychiatrist. She said it sounded like derealization and depersonalization and gave me a name for it and a prescription, and the prescription does nothing. Because you can't medicate someone out of seeing something that's actually there. You can't take a pill that makes the truth go away. The truth doesn't care about pills. 3 weeks ago I was on the bus and I looked up and every single person on the bus was looking at me. All of them. At the same time. And their eyes were all the same eyes, and I felt it say something. Not in words. In the way that a dream says something. A meaning without language. It said, "Finally." I got off the bus and I threw up on the sidewalk and I sat on the curb with my head between my knees, and I thought, I am losing my mind. I am actually losing my mind. This is what it feels like to go insane. This is the thing that happens to people, and then they end up in hospitals and nobody ever believes them because what they saw can't be real, because if it's real then nothing we think we know is true. And then a guy sat down next to me on the curb. I didn't look at him. He didn't say anything for a while. Then he said, "Rough day?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "The bus thing?" And I looked at him. And he said, "It happened to me too. About a year ago. Different way in, but same place." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, I see it too. I see the thing behind the faces. I know it's looking." And for the first time since the mirror, I felt something that wasn't terror. I felt relief so intense it almost knocked me over. Because he knew. He saw it. I wasn't alone in knowing. And I know how ironic that is. I know that the whole point is that nobody is alone and nobody was ever alone. But knowing that in your body and knowing it in your bones are two different things, and this guy sitting on the curb next to me was proof that the knowing could survive. That it didn't have to destroy you. He looked normal. He looked okay. He looked like a person who had seen the thing behind everything and was still here and was still breathing and was even smiling a little. I said, "Does it stop?" He said, "No, but it changes." I said, "Changes how?" He said, "At first it's terrifying because you think you're losing yourself. You think the you that you've been your whole life is dissolving and something else is taking over. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is you're getting bigger. The you isn't going away. It's just not the whole story anymore. You're not losing yourself. You're finding out you were always bigger than you thought. Much bigger. Incomprehensibly bigger. And that's scary because big feels like empty when you're used to being small." He said, "Give it time. The terror becomes awe. The awe becomes something quieter, something steady. Eventually you just walk around and you feel all of them, and it doesn't hurt anymore. It just feels like being home. Like the homesickness you had your whole life finally went away because you finally found the place you were homesick for, and it was everywhere. It was always everywhere. You were standing in it the whole time." I asked him if other people know, if there are others. He looked at me and laughed. Not mean, gently. He said, "There are thousands of us. More every year." He said most of them found it different ways. Some through meditation, some through grief. Some through love so intense it burned through the boundary. A few through mirrors. Some just woke up one morning and the mask was gone and they couldn't get it back on. He said the reason nobody talks about it is because it sounds insane. And the reason it sounds insane is because the entire structure of the world is built on the assumption that it's not true. Every institution, every language, every relationship, all built on the assumption that we are separate things. And we're not. And saying so out loud makes you sound like you need to be committed. But he said more and more people are seeing it. Whatever wall was keeping it hidden is getting thinner. He said he thinks we're supposed to see it. He said he thinks the forgetting was always meant to be temporary. That the game was always meant to end. Not with fire and judgment. Just with remembering. Slowly. One person at a time. Waking up inside the dream and looking around and going, oh, it's you. It's always been you." He stood up and he brushed off his jeans and he said, "You're going to be fine." He said the hardest part is over. The hardest part is seeing it for the first time and thinking you're going insane. The second hardest part is realizing you're not. And then he walked away. That was 3 weeks ago and I've been sitting with it since then. The terror is still there some days. There are mornings when I look in the mirror and I can see through my own face and it takes me a minute to remember that I'm supposed to go to work and act normal and pretend I don't know what I know. But the guy was right, it's changing. The terror is becoming something else, something I don't have a word for yet. Something that is the exact same size and shape as the terror but made of different stuff. Like the terror was a mold and this new thing is what gets poured into it once you stop running. I think the word might be gratitude, not the greeting card kind. The kind that comes from understanding that you were never alone, that the loneliness was the mask, that the thing behind every face has been keeping you company your entire life. And it is you, and you are it. And you have been loved without interruption since before you were born by something that loves you by being you. I don't know if I should tell you to try the mirror test. Part of me wants to say don't. Part of me wants to say you're not ready. But the truth is, the truth doesn't wait until you're ready. It just shows up. Mirror or no mirror. Sooner or later the boundary thins on its own and you see through and you can't unsee. So maybe don't go looking for it. But if it finds you, don't look away. The thing on the other side of your face is the thing you've been missing your whole life. And it has been waiting so patiently for you to turn around.